Hello, and welcome to Cannabis, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tori Rarick. Each episode will feature a candid conversation about how the cannabis plant has positively impacted individuals' wellness and bliss. Here to honor the plant and have fun. Hi, everyone. Today we're talking with Kelly Shallman of Bloomble, and she is actually the co-founder as well as chief operating officer of the CBD Marketplace and also CEO of the design agency, Shallman Designs. So welcome, Kelly. Why don't you tell us just a bit about you?
Hi, thank you for having me on your podcast. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time now, so I just appreciate the time that you're now sharing with me.
This is so great.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit about myself. My current passion is Bloomble, which is a CBD marketplace. And behind the scenes with that, we just cater to so many aspects of the industry, whether it's the facility and manufacturing side or the product end user retail space. So it's been really exciting, and also being able to tie in my experience with my design agency and, compiling it all into one successful business.
Right. And I know you and I connected, fascinating enough, like you worked for a pharmaceutical agency.
Yes, I did at one point, and thankfully now I'm using all that I learned in that space too, to bring a little bit more compliance and standardization to the CBD industry. Because as you know, this is pretty much a green rush, and there's so many new things to come of this industry. And, I'm just trying to, keep it as standardized as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And even just working at Moon Mother Hemp, I speak with customers all the time that are just kind of lost, and I'm glad they've come to us, but for the consumer, it can be really confusing, and there are some products that aren't as great as others, and so I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. I know that's like primarily what you do, so.
Right. Yeah, definitely there are some companies out there that, with the excitement of something that's just now becoming more accepted in society, as well as from a legal standpoint as well, there are many new faces. And just going back to this standardization aspect is, I really care about those products and the people who are involved in the industry as well, and protecting them on both sides and both spectrums of this industry. So, overall, taking care of yourself is a very important aspect of your life. And obviously the CBD products as well, you need to make sure that those ingredients are true to what they say they are. Mm-hmm. So, one thing that Bloomble and myself as just an entrepreneur in this industry is making sure that those products have what we call a certificate of analysis.
Yes.
And basically that just analyzes the whole quality of the product through and through, and make sure that it's passed all the tests, checking for things such as potency, like the cannabinoid profile, heavy metals, pesticides, mold. Those are all really big things that you need to make sure that the products you're purchasing have been covered and tested for.
Yes.
You got to make sure that the labeling is true to its ingredients through and through.
And that's the main thing, just to associate it with Moon Mother. It's like transparency is key. We don't mind where you go. Of course, we'd love you to choose us, but the main thing is, as a consumer, make sure the brand you're choosing is giving you all of this information and it's not being secretive about their practices and all of that.
Exactly. It's so important.
So I want to take it back a little bit, because I know we have a lot to talk about with Bloomble and CBD, but I just want to know, how do people get in this industry? What was your experience like with cannabis, or how's your background with it?
Well, my first experience with cannabis started back in high school, and that's just where I got into more of the recreational standpoint of the marijuana plant. But my whole journey with CBD and the hemp industry began not too long ago, in 2016, when I had thyroid cancer and unfortunately had to have surgery. And as hopes of, not taking these opioids or other pills that they were prescribing me, I was looking more towards CBD. Mm-hmm. And, after my surgery, I tested that out, and basically what I was looking for getting out of it was help with the pain, the inflammation, and also helping me get to sleep at night after the surgery. Mm-hmm. And for me personally, it worked. So that's just when I knew that this is something that I was eager and willing to learn more about, as well as share with others.
That's awesome.
That's just where it all began, I would say.
Was that kind of your call to continue down this path, or how did you transition from just being a consumer and using the product to dedicating your life to it, really?
Yeah. So basically with that, my desire to share it with others led into more just like overall education of the industry. And with that, I had a friend as well as my partner, Zevin, who is the CEO and co-founder with me. He and I suggested to one of our friends that he give it to his sister who has epilepsy. And he politely declined us, actually, because he said, my sister's already using this one specific brand. And for her, if I just give her any random CBD product, it could potentially mean life or death for her. So that's where we really thought about it and considered the fact that, this is a new industry. A lot of people are just typical business people who want to make some more money with this quote unquote fad or whatever you call this green rush. Mm-hmm. And we just realized how direly important it was to offer a safe space where customers could find exactly what they're looking for and not have to worry about, if it was actually a legitimate product. Right. So our aim with Bloomble then was to protect the customers as much as possible and, ensuring that by telling them that all of the products on our platform have passed through our quality assurance process and they've been properly vetted. So it just makes the whole purchasing process and experience that much better for them.
Right. And so are you able to share what your vetting process is like, what you look for?
Well, one of the biggest thing is the certificate of analysis that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. We make sure that everybody has licensed facilities. We track everything as much as we possibly can from the seed to sale, which is where we come in on the back end and cater to our vendors by supplying them with the raw materials such as the biomass, the flour, the isolate, the distillate, whatever they need in order to create the most perfect end product.
What is your mission with Bloomble? What is the main thing you'd like consumers to know you for?
Well, I feel that Bloomble is a marketplace that I hope to bring as much education and compliance into the industry as much as possible. So with that, we have these scientific studies or the research section that people can come to and find certain case studies that pertain to whatever condition they may be turning to CBD for. Or in the case of the blogs that we release, staying up to date on current news or just certain exciting things that are happening within our business that we would like to share with the consumers or the public. And there's just so many new things to come from this industry outside of CBD products, but the hemp industry itself. And we really, truly desire to bring as much of that education and the information as possible to our users.
I love that. I think that's really important just for patients to be empowered and do their own research as well, not just take someone's word for it, but to check into things for themselves. You're big into education as well, like educating the consumer, and one of the places on your site that they can go is all about research. You've pulled articles. Who goes through that? What stays on your site? What doesn't make it? How do you work that?
Well, we have a team that writes the blogs or does research. So what you'll see on our website is there is a whole web page dedicated to medical journals that have proven studies of what the cannabis plant has done for certain conditions. Mm-hmm. So we try to, as again, as I said before, bring in as much scientific evidence, as much compliancy, as much anything that really makes this source, Bloomble, a legitimate company in order to trust us the most.
Totally. So on the site, do you have any take on CBD versus like a full isolate versus full spectrum? Do you cater to one or the other? What's your take on that?
We cater to all of the above. So typically there is no THC products or full spectrum products. Sometimes you get the broad spectrum, which is you still have a full cannabinoid profile, but they remove the THC. So we take all of those into account because we see the benefits that every single type of product has. And what I generally tell people when they ask me, which one is the best, I say it truly depends on what you're looking to get out of it.
Right.
And also the biggest concern for some people is, oh, will I pass a drug test? Right. And I've done a lot of research. There's a lot of yes and no answers out there. A lot of it depends on the type of tests that people are running, as well as the dosage that you're taking every day. So you really just need to take that into account as if you were going to take a drug test. You have to consider using a zero THC product instead of a full spectrum.
So I don't know if everyone understands the difference between CBD isolate, a broad spectrum, or a full spectrum. Do you mind breaking that down?
Sure. So I'll start with full spectrum. So throughout the whole refinement process of taking the hemp flower all the way into an end product, you have to break it down basically. So the first step is you get a full spectrum product, which has the CBD, the THC, which is under the legal limit still, but it's still in there, as well as your CBGs, your CBNs, your CBCs, and more. That's the entire cannabinoid profile. So it's typically a green substance. And then if you refine it a little bit further, you go into a broad spectrum where you take out that zero THC, which is called a distillate, zero THC distillate, basically. And that is just where you get the broad spectrum with a little bit more of the entourage effect that some people are looking for. And then that last stage of refinement, you get into the purest form of CBD. And that doesn't have any of those other cannabinoids in it. And it comes out as a white crystalline powder. And then that goes into all the CBD products that you see on the market. It's, pretty easy to mix into a lot of different products, and it's very, very helpful due to the fact that it is the most potent and the most refined product of CBD out there.
Okay, so Kelly, tell me about just the variety of products. There's oils, there's capsules, there's lotions, that you could just use it so many ways. Can you just give your take on each of those and what you might use them for?
Yeah.
Or
Of course, yeah. So one thing, again, I always like to ask the customer why they're trying to use CBD, what they want to potentially get out of it or test it for. So basically with that, you can use the tinctures as what I consider one of the most bioavailable ways. And what I mean by that in layman's terms is it just basically means how much CBD your body absorbs into your bloodstream. What most people don't know is that every substance that you take has a certain absorption rate. So most CBD only has about 4 to 50% absorption rate. And that's something that not a lot of people talk about in this industry just yet, just because they aren't well informed about it. So of course, if you're taking something like a capsule or a gummy bear or any type of edible, you need to accept the fact that you're going to lose a portion of that CBD to your digestive system. So for example, if you take a 25 milligram capsule, you're only getting about, 20% out of it. You'll only be allowing your body to absorb maybe 5 milligrams of that CBD to actually activate. and be used in your endocannabinoid system. So basically I go into all of that and explain to them, if you're looking for more so of an edible, look for something that's maybe a little bit higher dosage or per milligram. And then that just goes into, what is the most effective for me? Right. And I rebuttal that with the tinctures for one, because you can use that sublingually. You stick it right under your tongue and that absorbs directly into your bloodstream that way. Or vaporizing it's not only just like a fad that you see these days, but it actually is one of the best ways to get CBD into your bloodstream because it jumps past that whole digestive process. You absorb it into your lungs and it's more potent for you that way. And basically with that, those are the two best ways. If you're looking more for muscle relief, the salves are very good. With that, you just have to use them liberally because, again, you have to break through your skin barrier in order to activate the CBD into your endocannabinoid system. So it's all relative to why they're using it. But basically, that's how
one size fits all. What about overdosing on CBD?
You definitely cannot overdose on CBD. I have heard and read of many studies myself. And honestly, if you're taking too much CBD, you're just wasting your money at that point.
So people just need to try it out and see what works for them. It's just this whole, I love that it's so integrative and holistic. It's this personalized medicine. And yes, that's true in the pharmaceutical world, but I think that gets overlooked a lot. And so right now with CBD and the lack of standardization, it's kind of an interesting time for patients to just stay in tune with themselves and
absolutely
see what works for them.
Yeah, it's definitely a trial and error process if you're a beginner. And I mean, that just has to do with everybody's body is different. Mm-hmm. We absorb things differently. Who knows what your gut health looks like or what your physical state of being is, and your journey to wellness is all relative to your own process.
Definitely. So Kelly, where can people find you?
Well, you can follow me through Bloomble. We are on Instagram and Facebook, as well as our website. If you would like to stay in tune with what we're doing on the social media aspect, you can follow Bloomble _CBD, and Bloomble is spelled BLOOMBLE. And that's just really where I keep all of my updated research and everything that I'm learning, and just eager to share with all of you.
Yeah, check it out. This is so great. Good for you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's super exciting, and I'm glad you're in the space as well. We've got a lot of interesting experiences to share together, I would say.
We've got work to do, for sure.
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Cannabis, the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and give a 5-star rating. You can find more information about mindfulness and what I do at tidytour.com. Follow the Cannabis over to Instagram and connect with me through direct message anytime. Big love.